This is the OMFL.
You can't touch this.
And you're in the mix with Kinda Real Name. Here's another OMFL production.
Good morning and welcome to Press Pass Live. That's right, your weekly podcast show. I am the commissioner, founder of the OMFL, Nate. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, got my good buddy, Mr. Maniac. D-Wayne is missing. He is missing in action because he thinks he drank a little too much wine last night, but hopefully he will be able to join us before the show is over. Leave it to Wayne. Maniac too. Leave it to both of you to drink a little too much wine on a Friday night. How you doing this morning, Maniac?
Oh, I'm doing well. Looking forward to this Press Pass Live show.
Yeah, there's so much for us to cover, and we're going to just jump right into it with 10 good minutes. We're trying some new settings, all right? I'm hoping that this week's show is going to be much better than last week's show. We had to drop the resolution just a little bit, but we were able to keep our frame rates up, and hopefully it's a whole lot better than it was last time. But hoping that you're enjoying the new layout that we have here, and I'm also hoping, fingers crossed, because the wife is going to be out watching a movie this morning, that there'll be a game on live that we can do some live commentary. But before we get there and talk OMFL, talk all that fun stuff that we're going to be covering on today's show, let's bring in a good buddy of mine that I actually met, I want to say, probably almost 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half or so. Honestly, it's a little fuzzy. I think that we connected through Twitter. He was doing a ton of really, really great stuff with his league. He has an Xbox One league. We were looking to start growing our reach. We had really reached out to the Madden Ballers Club and other leagues that have formed the 7 different Madden leagues that we have here at Grown Folks. And I was like, you know what? I want to reach out into the Xbox world. And so my first reach out was to our buddy. And please, I'm terrible with names. Correct me if I'm saying this wrong. But is it Langille? No, I'm not saying that right. Langille. Jeez.
It's Langille.
You see, it's this Cajun brain, Cajun mouth. I just can't do it all. But Langille, thank you so much for joining us, buddy. How you doing this morning?
No problem. Glad to be here. It's great to talk to you guys, and I'm looking forward to this.
All right, we're going to talk about your Madden League. We're going to talk about your amazing wife who does some really cool streaming stuff and your freaking mind-blowing website that you have. We're going to get there. But before we do, we got to talk about what I think is the coolest factor of you, the coolest thing that I learned about you. You're a wrestling announcer.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Thanks. 4 years ago, this coming September, I actually back up. Right about now, 4 years ago, I was invited to attend an IHW show, Innovative Hybrid Wrestling, out of Moncton, New Brunswick, and to plug our podcast on commentary. So I said sure. Like a good friend of mine, the rock star Chris Cole is the play-by-play, or sorry, he was the color commentator at that point. So I said, sure, no problem. So I get on the show, and they said, if you can do some color, just to fill space so that you're talking throughout the entire show, go ahead. I was like, great. And they said, but we want you to work babyface. We want you to be a good guy. And I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. So I'm there, and I'm talking, and unfortunately, without really realizing what I'm doing, because I was, kind of wrapped up in the whole thing, I was doing more play-by-play than I was color. And the main play-by-play guy just kind of, he was gracious about it. He was nice about it. He let me do what I was going to do. And then the owner of the company came over, and he took his headset off and gave it to the owner, and then kind of just, said, listen to this. And they made the decision that night that if I wanted to take over and be the play-by-play guy for IHW, that the job was mine if I wanted it, which I was completely blown away by. And I said yes, as long as I'm not. I know I was taking this guy's job technically as play-by-play, but as long as I'm not forcing someone out of the company. And they said, well, no, he's going to switch to French commentary. I said, okay, great. So I started doing commentary, and I was the good guy, and Rockstar was the bad guy, and it was a lot of fun on commentary. And then my first official card that I worked was September to Surrender 10, which is their big kickoff not pay-per-view, but big event of the year. And the main event was Jake the Snake Roberts and who was it? It was Jake the Snake Roberts and Titus against Marcus Burke and Brody Steele. Not that it was crazy that my
That's
first
pretty
official
cool.
card was Jake Roberts. So fast forward 4 years, and as I was saying to Nate before we went on the air, I had a bit of a health scare earlier this year.
Which is, I'm just going to say, which is saying it very lightly. He had more than just a bit of a health scare.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, it was serious. I try to stay positive on it, but yeah. So I was in the hospital, and a local promoter got a hold of me and said, I heard you were sick. Is there anything I can do for you, et cetera, et cetera? And I said, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. I said, but I can help you once I get out of here. I can edit your TV show. I'd love to give you guys some motion graphics, some things to work with. And he was like, yeah, that would be great. We'll talk about it. So I got out of the hospital, and I spoke with him, and he said, I would love to have you on commentary for my wrestling company, which is called Red Rock Wrestling here in Stratford, Prince Edward Island. And I said, sure, no problem. And I'd love to do that. Plus the travel will be way less. It's like 10 minutes as opposed to 3 hours. So it was great. He said, we want you to work heel though. We want you to be I'm this cocky guy who, believes he's the greatest thing in wrestling, da 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 da. And I'm like, sure, no problem. So I thought that was fun. He had a vision for what he wanted me to do, and I did that. And the IHW company I mentioned earlier, they saw this character and they said, you need to bring this to there. So now I have the same persona in both companies, and I'm just this, snarky, over arrogant, overconfident guy who believes he's the greatest thing in wrestling. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, to the point where in Red Rock Wrestling, I am now the president of the company. I had a plan, and I launched the plan, and I've screwed over, the main baby faces in the company, and now I run the show. So it's a fantastic time for me. And both of these things are televised. IHW is on fight.tv. You can search up IHW Unstoppable. And Red Rock Wrestling is currently only it broadcasts across Canada, but I don't think it has an online presence, so I can't unfortunately plug that. But yeah, no, it's an amazing time. I'm very lucky and very blessed to be able to be involved with this sort of stuff. I've been a fan since I was like 8, and now I'm part of it, and I couldn't be happier.
Bama Shocks on our YouTube chat says that you're not his president. So just so that you know, he is not a fan of you. But that is some of the coolest stuff. You have one of the coolest profile photos on your Twitter. Please stop what you're doing right now. Go jump over to Brian's Twitter page. You see it right here on the screen. Give him a follow and support our good friends. So let's talk Madden now. Let's talk about your league. One of the things that really turned me on and got me to notice the work that you were doing was really about the stats. Oh, easy now. It doesn't take a whole lot to do that. But as I was checking out your website, the stats and the depthness that you were doing with your website back then Now, I know you and I have had many, many, many conversations about how different your Madden League is. It is an Xbox One league, but tell us about the league. Tell us about these really amazing stats that you have, and just talk about what makes your league so different.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. I started off running sports leagues years ago with the NHL series, both on 2K and on EA. And I wanted to create an environment where it's not, lobby kids who are using cross crease one timers the whole time, or for argument's sake, in football terms, just constantly running plays that they know they're going to score on and run up the score and da 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 da. So that was my goal from the beginning, was to create an environment where you're not subjected to stuff like that. People can be great at the game, but they're not using exploits all the time. And I ran hockey for years and collected stats the same way that I do in football. And people really liked it, but unfortunately 2K lost the rights to hockey, and then EA shut down online leagues, so I was pretty much done. There was nothing else I could do. So I kind of fell out of hockey, and then I turned to football. And not instantly, but I wanted to get back into sports gaming, so I got into Madden. And it was my wife and our good friend Dave, both on the TPC podcast. We ran our own Madden league, and it was like 3 of us, and then 29 other computer teams. But it was just for fun. It was casual sort of thing. We had fun. I collected all the stats, and then I mentioned it on the podcast once that I would like to run a Madden league for our community. And I got a lot of great feedback, and they were like, yeah, we'd love to be a part of that. I said, okay. So I set it up, and I took everything that I learned from running hockey and brought it to football, and the stats collection and everything else, and just kept going. But the league is super supportive. They're all really close. I love these guys. This group of guys is fantastic. I say guys, my wife plays too. So guys and girls. But yeah, so the website, as far as that went, I wanted something where you can go to the site and you can see what's going on with any team, any game, et cetera, et cetera. And I found out about daddy leagues, and I was like, okay, they are doing exactly what I want to do. That is awesome. So I subscribed to daddy leagues and love their service. The service is fantastic. But I found myself wanting, not that I needed creative control, but I found myself saying, I want to spin this my way. So I had the subscription to Daddy Leagues. I would take all the league stats, copy them, put them into Excel. I built a database and ran all the stats through that, and then put up my own website. So I wasn't trying to outdo or outshine Daddy Leagues in any aspect, but I wanted to have my own touch, how it looked, how it was presented, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how it started. And I believe that's shortly after that, you and I met. We were talking and stuff, and you had mentioned, the stats and everything on the website and the graphical work and that sort of stuff. And that's where you and I met. And so that was last winter. So we're now in season 5, and that's where we are. The website is tpcfootball.com. It's currently in a rebuild at the moment because I'm working on. I redesigned the entire site, so it's built in Bootstrap, so it works on tablets, phones, computers, etc. No matter where you go, you'll have a clean look at it because the previous site was built specifically for desktop, and when you loaded it on your phone, the font was so small you couldn't see anything. It just didn't work for me. So I'm currently in the midst of rebuilding, but yeah, that's the website, and that's the story.
Talk to us about the settings, the stats, and I'm not the stats, I'm sorry, the settings and the advanced schedule, because it's all a little bit different in kind of your concept on why you guys do what you do.
Yeah, we're a little bit different in the aspect where I describe us as a learner league, and I don't mean that with any disrespect at all. Again, it's kind of like what I mentioned about hockey, where we didn't want people to come in and blow everybody out, using either exploits or not. But we wanted an environment where people who have never played Madden before and don't want to go online and get smashed have a place to, learn how to play Madden. So I describe us as a learner league, and that's how that goes. Now the advancement, I've seen some sites on Daddy Leagues before where advancement every 48 hours. I saw a couple that were 24 hours and that sort of stuff, and I was just like, no, we no, that would burn us out. So what we did was, and you guys are laughing, are your guys' advancement 48 hours?
So the quick history is that the OMFL was a way back in the day, 2001, when I started it. PC League, it was a one advance per week on Sundays, just like a normal NFL schedule. And I remember the first time somebody said, why don't we go to 2 advances, one on Wednesday, one on Sunday? And I remember like, there's no way. I could never play that many games. My wife would murder me. Now we advance basically every 48 hours. We're a 72-hour league, but games get done, and there's no reason to sit around and wait. And so we advance as soon as the last game's played. And we're a 72-hour league that basically advances every 48, but there's 72 there if people need it.
Wow, I should really do more research before I start talking about how things are not to be. But yeah, no. So we did our advancements, like you had mentioned earlier, Wednesdays and Sundays, and that's how we started. And again, we're not. We enjoy playing with our friends. We enjoy playing in the league, but we're not like, oh my God, I have to play Madden every day
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's more of a casual, relaxed experience. But it's a learner league. We actually, our first season, we ran arcade because I did research and it said, bigger plays, bigger hits, and I was like, okay, that sounds fun, especially for people that aren't necessarily looking for a realistic, like, write down simulation football game. So it was like, great. Unfortunately, that failed because we were winning games, like 77-10 in some cases. And I was like, okay, this is definitely not the idea for us. So we switched in season 2, went from arcade to simulation, and we ran sim for seasons 2, 3, and 4, which were great. Way more, the game was way more realistic at that point. And then in season 5, we switched to competitive. So we play on the pro skill level because, again, we're not super advanced when it comes to Madden, but we play pro on competitive now. And absolutely happy with the league and how it's progressing. And yeah, I don't know, I'm rambling at this point, so if you have another question, we'll definitely get to it.
Let me tell you. Let me hear about the 3-player co-op podcast that you do. How did that start? Where did the idea come from? Who's on it? And I just want to quickly say thanks for everybody who's tuning in. I see a bunch of our friend Brian's friends with us. I see Kevin in here. I see Smash, I think, in there. Smash, I still love you. I know I had to give it to you yesterday, but I still love you. But thanks to Slippy and Bama, and then I see that your amazing wife has hopped in here with us. Thank you guys for tuning in. But tell me about the podcast. Where did it come from? What's it about? Who's on it? Tell me all about it.
Yeah, sure. My wife Susan and our good friend Dave used to spend hours, and I mean hours, playing Borderlands Borderlands 2, on Xbox, to the point where our gamer tags were burnt into Dave's screen. So we feel kind of bad on that. But we played it all the time, and we just talked and laughed and had a lot of fun. And at one point, I believe it was Susan, said, why don't we do this as a podcast? And Susan, who legitimately is a very shy lady, that kind of shocked us. We were like, really? Because it wasn't something that struck me as something she would want to do. And she was like, sure. It's because we weren't video, we're just audio. And so we said, sure. And we launched the podcast, and we talk about gaming and video games and all that good stuff, which is a line from the show. And it was Susan, Dave, and I, and we launched the show right after E3. Our first episode ever was recapping E3 of, I guess, 6 years ago. We're going into season 7 here next week. And we just had laughs and that sort of stuff. It was great. We talked about our opinions and stuff. And it kind of took off. So we kept with it. We discussed news stories of the week as far as gaming goes, but people for the most part tune in, I believe, and a couple of people have said this, was they could get the gaming news anywhere. They can go to like GameSpot, or they
Yeah.
can go to any, 24, I forget the name of it, VG 24/7 or something.
Mm-hmm.
They can get that. But it's the conversation and the whole banter between the three of us is what people tune in for, and it's going really well. In fact, we just changed up our hosting situation here a couple weeks ago. Bama Shocks, which I have to give him a huge shout out, partnered streamer, really great guy. He joined the show, so now it's four of us. So um, technically, we're TPC. We were three-player co-op. We rebranded as TPC because our TPC shooters, our TPC football, everything else it was a branding thing. So we have four hosts on what used to be three-player co-op. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. We love doing it, and we started it 6 years ago. So it's been a very long time.
Before I toss it over to Maniac, where can people find the podcast? Where they can they subscribe? Where can they find all the information?
Anywhere they usually get their podcast from, just do a search for three-player co-op. And yeah, we're on iTunes, we're not on Spotify or anything, but we're anywhere else you normally get your podcast. You can get it. It's called Three-Player Co-op. And I if we can circle back to Madden just for, oh, by the way, thank you for the plug. I really appreciate it. If I can circle back to Madden for a second, one of the other things about our league that I totally got sidetracked on was we had a benefactor get a hold of us in season 2 and shipped us a championship belt that says TPCFL champion, and it was an amazing belt. And our champion that season was our back-to-back champion, Minnesota. Kivstall won the title the first two seasons. He was in the midst of moving, and then we got hit with a postal strike here in Canada, so I couldn't ship the belt, and yada yada yada. So we didn't actually get the belt out until season 4. So now the champion gets a belt that they keep for the season, and then they ship it, like we pay for it, but they ship it to the next champion. But we wanted something that would be, permanent, because you get that belt, you ship it away, and then it was great to have it for, 4 months, but what do you have to show for it? So there's a guy in our community that has 3D printers.
Yep.
And we got a pattern, I guess you would call it, of a 3/4 size scale of the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah, I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah, it worked out really well. We put a modified version of our logo on it, and then it says the season that you were champion and your gamer tag, and people get that trophy to keep. So we did it retro. We went back and gave them to anyone who won titles before we did that. So everyone has like their own Lombardi Trophy if you win the championship, and I thought that was something important to do for the guys.
No, that's super, super cool. I had the exact same idea that you did. I have a friend who runs a business that has a ton of the 3D printers, but I ended up finding them cheaper online and was able to. So yeah, all of our champions get the same thing. They get a full, chrome, cool mini version of a Lombardi Trophy with their name, their season, and their team on there. It's super, super cool. Maniac, what do you have for our friend Brian?
Oh, that sounds like really, really cool.
And are you moving over there? Did you just decide like mid-podcast, I'm going to start packing up, I'm moving?
No, the wife came back, so so she's kind of hustling around.
So she's moving you. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So, but no, all those things that you were talking about there sounds really cool with the belt and then the little trophies and stuff, and just if you're just trying to sell your league and stuff, what would be the one selling point of your league that you think that kind of sets you apart from all the rest of the Madden leagues?
Not really good about talking about myself, but if I had to list something, I think it's the website. I think that the website, you can go there and everything is sortable. Our claim to fame on the website is it's every stat from every player from every game ever. So the entire league has been, cataloged, and you can look up results from games all the way back to season one, and it keeps people interested. Um, it keeps people, checking the stats and wanting to know how they're doing and stuff. And I would say that's the selling point, actually.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I just actually just checked out your website and stuff, and I see how you're keeping up with all the stats there and stuff. That's a really neat little thing that you got going. It's very similar to kind of like day leagues in a certain way, but then you've also got a lot of other things that has your own touch to it that I can tell, and that's really awesome. I really like seeing that personal
Thank you
touch.
very much. Thank you.
Well, Brian, we're spending a little extra time with you, and I appreciate that. Because you're such an interesting, fascinating guy who's got his hands in so many cool things. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts for Madden 19. What were your thoughts on it? What does your league think about Madden 19? What are the overall feelings for this end of the cycle of Madden 19?
Yeah, we are on a different time rotation than you guys are because, again, being a learner league and trying to get into Madden, we don't buy the new game the minute it comes. I do, but the league doesn't buy the game when it comes out. So we only started Madden 19 in January when it went into the vault for everybody. And it was an adjustment. There were growing pains, and I mean, and that's bound to happen, right? Like, I mean, we played 4 seasons under Madden 18. People were familiar with what worked and what didn't, and they're familiar with their players. And then there's the game mechanics itself. We switched to Madden 19, and yeah, there was some growing pains there. Most people adjusted fine. It just took a little bit, but I love the presentation of 19 over 18. I'm a graphics guy. I also appreciate gameplay, but to be able to see the differences were great. Now, Madden 19 had its problems, or has its problems. There's the overtime glitch where sometimes it doesn't go to overtime; it just kind of hangs there. So we had to work around that. Um, there was yeah, it's I love it. The league loves Madden 19. Things are going well. And hold on, things are beeping. Am I still here?
No, you're still here.
Oh, here. Okay,
Things are
great.
beeping on you?
Yeah, well, like Discord notification stuff, like interrupt of a chat. I was like, man, maybe I got disconnected. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm happy with Madden 19. I'm looking forward to Madden 20. I hope, and I know you guys have, probably said this for years. I hope that CFM actually gets some love this year, as opposed to Mutt and all the quote unquote money making parts of the game. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. But we won't hit Madden 20 until like next January, next February. So it's gonna be a while for us.
Talk about Madden 20 real quick. What have you heard that maybe interests you? Where are you at on it? Well, like, what have you kept up with things? What do you think about Madden 20 and the news that's dropped so far?
To be honest with you, I'm not even gonna try and lie and blow this. I haven't really seen much to do with Madden 20. Basically, my head's been buried in coding. I taught myself Bootstrap to rebuild the website and stuff, and I figure our Madden 20 stuff isn't for basically another 6 months. So I'm looking forward to EA Play today, where they announce it and we get to see a couple things from it. But I don't honestly have a lot of information about Madden 20 for you.
No, that's totally fine. Look, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for talking about your website and talking about the podcast. Look, whatever you guys are doing, stop right now. Go subscribe, go follow, go support our friend Brian. He's been nothing but nice. He's in our chat. You won't hear from him very much, if at all, but he is in our chat because he is a partner of ours and part of what we're trying to do, and we're learning from him, and just he's a good friend. And so anytime you can meet good people in this community, it's good people to have around. And thank all your crew, man. You've got a big crew here that's been listening to the podcast. Thank you guys so much. We wouldn't complain if you gave us a little subscribe. If you're into Madden, if you're into PUBG, if you're into golf, we kind of stream a lot of all those types of things. And we do as many podcasts as we possibly can. We have this weekly show. Pootie T, the commissioner of the NBC, and I also do a bi-weekly podcast for the Daddy Leagues, and we talk Madden 19, we talk Madden 20 right now, and we'll have a ton of release stuff, and we'll do a release stream and release giveaways. I think last year we gave some stuff to some of your owners. We had some free giveaways for Xbox, and we're able to hook up some of your owners, and so we'll do that all again this year, thanks to my other buddy who's here. Mr. Maniac, he's got those inside connections. It's funny, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I have zero connections. I do like all the podcasts and graphics and website and everything, and yet I have zero connections. I need people like Maniac to go help me with the connections, but Maniac's always really good about that, and we're hoping that here soon, after they kind of get through EA Play and those types of responsibilities, that we can have one of the Madden developers or Madden team members come and be a part of the podcast and do a short interview with us. So hopefully that'll come out soon. But Brian, thank you so much, man, for taking time out of your Saturday morning to be here. We just really appreciate everything that you do, and hopefully we'll get you some new followers and people go support the great work that you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Before I go, not that I'm trying to plug stuff, but there's a couple things that I'd just like to mention, if
Please.
I could, if that's all right with you. Okay, first off, I have to give a shout out to our commentary team. We do live broadcasts. We started in season 2. Meter, the voice of the TPCFL, came to me and said, could I do some commentary on some games? Would you be okay with that? And I said, sure, that would bring another element to the league. And he smashed it out of the park. So I have to give a huge shout out to him. We broadcast our games live on Mixer at mixer.com/TPC Sports. And we also have new commentators this year. I'm dipping my toe into it. It's a lot different calling video game football than it is pro wrestling, but it's a fun experience, and I'm enjoying that. And Bama Shocks and Cobus 1984 has also joined the broadcast team. So I'm super happy about that. And the other thing I want to mention, you kind of beat me to it. Last year, you donated a copy of Madden 19 to our league, which I totally appreciate. And what I wanted to do for you guys this year, although you've got hook up with Maniac, and I think that's awesome, we want to return the favor. So I would like to purchase a copy of Madden 20 for PS4 and donate it to you guys, so that, share the love and say thank you and appreciate everything you've done for us here in the TPCFL.
We appreciate that, man, and I'll argue with that offline because it wasn't a tit for tat thing. We just appreciate you being kind enough to come be on our show, and I'd much rather maybe keep that money and just get me some subscribers, help me retweet my stuff, do that kind of thing. But yeah, you can argue with me offline, and just don't hit me with a chair because I'm a pretty sensitive fella. We used to have a WWE 2K league here that I used to put a ton of work in, more work than I want to even think about. But if you ever want to go, any of your people you're really into wrestling, I think our shows are really awesome. We did take a break, at least for the rest of this cycle. I think the new game will drop in October. The game is really amazing, but this seems to be the year of like a zillion amazing games, and so it was really hard to keep people plugged in because there were so many other really good games that people wanted to play. But hopefully that will come back next October. Just kind of plug in that because I know that you have a lot of wrestling followers. If you ever want to check that stuff out, go follow us on our YouTube page, and you can see there's a whole playlist. Brian, thank you again, man. Thanks so much for all of your friends who came and joined and listened. And thanks for spending some time with us today, man.
No, thank you. And what I'd like to do is get you possibly on TPC.
I'd love to do that.
To spread the word, and
I'd be honored.
We'll talk Mad and video games and all that good stuff. It'll be awesome.
We can even talk wrestling. I'm a wrestling fanatic. I watch almost every show that's out there.
Well, then, yeah, you and I are going to continue to get along great, sir. But no, thank you for having me. Thank you for the spotlight on our league. I really appreciate it. And Maniac, great meeting you. And I hope to talk to you again soon. But thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you soon.
All right, Brian, have a good one. Thank you so much, man. There you have it.
No problem.
Mr. Brian, go follow him. Go subscribe. It's really, really great content that's out there, and we appreciate him taking some time It's time to talk some OMFL, and our viewership is going to dive off of this podcast now. It's going to go from all of these viewers that are on right now, and it's just going to die because people are like, what's the OMFL? I don't want to care about that league. But we care about the league, and we're ready to talk about it. Man, let's just jump right into it, Maniac. I was hoping that our belly wine filled partner would have came and joined us, but he has yet to shake himself off of the toilet. That's 2 weeks in a row now. You noticed that, right?
I know. I thought you were fixing to say belly wine hillbilly.
That's a good looking man. I cannot call him a hillbilly, but I will say he's starting to push my buttons 2 weeks in a row here, and may have to give him a stage 1 warning just to mess with him. Let's talk about your favorite game, and let's just jump right into it. So we are already in we just advanced last night. Are we in week 7? Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Why did it do that? Don't do that.
I believe it is week 7.
We're in week 7, so let's get to our favorite game from week 4, 5, or 6. What was your favorite game?
Well, there was a ton to pick from, really, and I had probably selected like 4 or 5 different games to look at, but ultimately I kind of decided upon this one game in week 4, and we're going to talk about the big NFC West matchup that was kind of these guys are not really battling for. They're kind of battling out for 3rd place at this point because the Seahawks and the Cardinals are just kind of dominating things over there, but talk about Mr. Bill and Mr. Cooley G and their little matchup that they had that was just a phenomenal game. Scoreboard wise, and I did get, I think, the sneak peek a little bit of this one. It's been a few days, so I was trying to remember if I actually did watch this one, but I think I did. The Rams pulled this one out 20-17. Henry had a solid performance. Wasn't spectacular. He was 9 of 19, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Gurley really wasn't nothing great, but enough to kind of keep the defense honest for the 49ers, 14 for 61 and 1 touchdown. But Brandon Cooks, the old man Brandon Cooks, now had 5 receptions, 122 for 1 touchdown. Really kind of set the pace for the Rams this game. And then you look over on the other side, Cooley G with Garoppolo went 22, 35, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But his what the biggest thing here was his running game. He's been a really solid runner in the OMFL, and here he was with his 2 top runners, 18 carries for under 50 yards and no touchdowns. That was, to me, the biggest factor in this game. Kittle did the leading reception for the team with 6 for 109 yards. And then on defense, the defensive leaders, Joyner for the Rams had a sack, interception, and forced fumble. So he kind of had the trifecta there. And then Warner on the side of the 49ers had 2 sacks and a forced fumble. The biggest stat here was the turnover. I think really kind of set apart from the game as what won this for the Rams. He had 2 interceptions. He also had 2 forced fumbles, and that really kind of, I think, set the tone for this game. And in the end, Mr. Bill, he's sitting at 3-3 right now. Cooley G is sitting at 2-4, and I think Cooley G was this mark last year. I think I saw from his Twitter. So, or last season. So it's going to be fun to see if he can actually make another push. But now you got Mr. Bill over here with the Rams, whereas it's new blood there in the NFC West, and he's sitting at the 3rd spot there. But this was a really great game, and probably one that could be rewatched and possibly. I don't know if these guys submitted it to the OMFL special games to be watched later on or whatever, but this might be one that could be considered.
Maniac. Maniac.
Yo.
Did you just say special games to be watched?
Yes, I went blank. I'm sorry.
You've had an hour to wake up as we interviewed someone else on this podcast, and you just said special games to be watched.
Special games.
We got special, all right. Here's the two weird things, or one weird thing that just kind of stuck out to me. The amount of players who got a tackle on defense for the 49ers, I mean, that list is pretty short. We got 9 players on that list when you're normally used to seeing closer to 11, 12, 13 type of players with special teams and everything. And my other kind of like complaint is that freaking the 1 year I don't draft Kittle as my tight end in fantasy football, he goes and gets 6 receptions for 109 yards. Look, stats-wise, you were on it. The 49ers dominated this game, but you can't turn the ball over. 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. The Rams stayed in it, and even though the stats are not pretty for the Rams, they're pretty enough to pick up a victory. So, big win for the LA Rams, and it's confusing to me to see what's happened to the 49ers. I mean, this is a good team, a great owner who just seems off. And another, great owner that seems a little off is what's going to bring me into my next game, which is going to go into last week. Now, I think that this game got played late last night. Where'd it go? I just lost it. Oh, here it is. And that is the Jaguars and Colts in week number 7. Our buddy D. Wayne is struggling. He is 2-3. The Jacksonville Jaguars come away with a 24-23 victory here. Cam Newton, very inefficient on today. Just overall, these teams are not playing extremely good football. But even with all of the scores, 24-23, like, these guys played the type of football that you kind of expect outside of the rush game. I mean, the Jaguars only allowed 147 passing yards. The Colts only 181. Colts had 4 sacks. Jaguars had 5 sacks. 2 turnovers from the Jaguars. 0 turnovers from the Colts. Again, you would expect to see that, but when you start to really break this down, you see that the rushing game for both of these teams, that's what they do well, and you've seen it here. Morgan, 8 rushes for 72 yards, but he had a long of 63, and that was the touchdown. So that one would come back to haunt the Colts. On the other side of the ball, Hines, 14 for 75, but Dixon, showing that he still has something left in the tank, 11 for 69 and a touchdown. None of these receivers really had an amazing day. I mean, Moncrief had 4 for 80. That's not too bad. Westbrook, 3 for 63, but Watson, 2 touchdowns. So pretty effective, but 172 passing yards, and it looks like he even got injured for a couple of plays in this game. Newton, 10 for 15, 171. He didn't turn the ball over, but he also didn't get it across the goal line. And then both of these defenses played really, really great football. Now, this one, I haven't seen the feedback form, but I know that, we all seen the chat last night. This one has a little controversy with it. The Colts maybe feel like the Jags were, maybe doing some things that were a little underhanded, maybe not against the rules, but just a little shaky. Jaguars are pretty frustrated. He has had nothing but the FPR problem since Madden 18. This is a guy who used to do our FPR, a guy that I used to play twice a year, every year when he was the Buccaneers, and honestly, one of the top FPR guys. We had a rough game like the very first time we played, like 4 years ago, but after that he really cleaned it up. But the last 2 years have been a struggle for him for whatever reason. But either way, struggle or no struggle, the Jaguars beat the Colts, and the Colts are sub 500 for the first time in an extremely long time. And I don't know, not something that I thought that we would have seen anytime soon from D. Wayne. That's going to have to be a subject of something that we talk about, because
talk about it now.
No, even if he's on, he's not going to say anything. He's too busy drinking wine. I imagine that, like, the loss, he carries his loss so bad that he not only went radio silent on Discord last night, but he also drank himself to a hangover this morning, and he's hugging a toilet, puking his guts out. Come on, Dwayne, you're better than that. Pull it together, man. I'm going to need you to get things together. Speaking of teams that are getting it together, I'm going to make a statement here, and I need you to either talk me out of this statement or tell me why I'm right. I think the Cleveland Browns, who are sitting at 4-2, are winning with smoke and mirrors, and I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off of this bus by the end of the second half. Do you agree with me or disagree with me?
Well, after watching his game last night against the Bengals, I don't know. I'm questioning myself because I was one of the chaotic supporters in his quest this season. But, I mean, we're talking about Cincy, freaking Cincy. He's probably one of the top 4 players, top 3 players in the league.
Yeah.
I would probably have to go D-Money, D-Wayne, and Cincy if I was rating guys.
Very consistent.
For the play. Yeah. It's just been up and down that order for the last. And there goes Houday again in the background.
Shut up, Houday.
It's been that order for I don't know how many seasons maybe back into the last Madden. But from what I saw before this game, Chaotic has really evolved his offense, and I think if he can get back to what he showed in the first 5 games of the season, he's definitely got a chance to buck the trend that he has been in the last couple of seasons, and in fact, more than a couple of seasons. He struggled back to last Madden, and then our first 5 seasons into this Madden, he has shown a struggle, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He's really a defensive-minded guru. You could tell, like even in the early stages of this Madden, where he would play certain guys really close, but just could never put nothing together offensively, and would put together some of the worst offensive games that I've seen from anybody in the OMFL.
that's saying something.
Yeah. We're talking like Outlaw putting out some majors, and Outlaw has had his struggles and stuff, but you see him putting up some points and really moving the ball and having some offensive leaders and stats. But Chaotic has just, for whatever reason, struggled with that, and it hadn't been the lack of talent because his teams have been loaded. He's probably one of the best GMs we have in our league, but just whatever it was, he just couldn't put it together offensively. But this season, he's been running the ball, got both those running backs actually in the top 10 in the league in stats with rushing. But if he can get back to what he showed those first 5 games, I think he's going to make a push for a possible playoff spot. I really was the telltale of this season was if he could compete with Cincy. And last night's game, it just wasn't there, and I don't think he's going to have a chance to win this division like I kind of predicted. But can he make it to the playoffs? I think so, but he's just got to get back to what that winning formula was the first five weeks of this season to have a chance to do that.
If you beat around this bush anymore, you're going to get arrested and set up for trial. Can you please tell me, are you agreeing with me or disagreeing with me? Because you did a shitty job of talking me out of it.
Oh, I know. I'm not a very good car salesman like Mo. So,
only for your first rounder.
I'm not talking you out of it at this point. Chaos got to prove to me as well now at this point if he can make it or not. So at this point in time, it's smoke and mirrors until he can put some more effort into that on the field.
Look, I got to give it to him first and foremost. He's built an 88 overall team without a lot of groceries, so to speak, in the basket. I will say, though, he his schedule is always confusing to me. You fall to the Texans. That's a team I thought you would beat. You beat the Raiders, a team I thought you'd lose to, especially with the offensive firepower that he has. You beat the Ravens, expect you to win that game. You come back and beat the Titans. I mean, that's a top-tiered team in this league. Then you beat the Jaguars. All right, now you're starting to catch people's attention. You just beat the Raiders, the Titans, the Jaguars, 3 of the top teams in the AFC in season 85. And then you go and lay an egg, 34-14 last night against the Bengals. And in my opinion, those are the types of games that now set you behind. Now you start getting in your own head. Now you start rethinking your own strategy. Excuse me. Let's just call a spade a spade. Him and Cincy aren't going to have a beer anytime soon. They don't, they're not inviting each other over for Christmas, and they won't be sharing cookies and milk. They don't like each other. But here, Cincy has his number, and for whatever reason, the Browns can't figure out that offense and can't figure out that Bengals defense. And I would have expected, if this was going to be a real season, that he would have competed more in that game. And now here's your schedule to follow. The Cardinals, a top team in the NFC. Mo is playing great defense. That's going to be a fun defensive battle to watch. The Steelers, I know that they're struggling this year, but they have the firepower. You should win that game. Then you get a little bye week, but then you're back in Cincinnati. Then the schedule lightens up a little bit. You got the Steelers. You got the Rams. Look, Bill's going to make you own it. You got the Bills in there. Outlaws struggling with this new team. The 49ers struggling this year. But then listen to the last 3 games. Seahawks, Colts, Ravens. Man, that's a tough way to finish out the season. I think the middle of this schedule sets up well for him to get a nice little run here and set himself up for a possible playoff run. I mean, right now, let's load it up and take a look. I think right now he is in... no, he's not even in. That's right. He is right outside. He's in the 7th seed at 5-2. But I do think that with the middle of that schedule, he's going to bump into that 5th and 6th seed somewhere in there. But the end of that schedule is going to be tough, and he's going to have to try to finish strong, and that's going to be really, really tough with what he has to offer, right? And with this offense. Now, I will say he's got the number 1 or one of the top, I think 5, rushing attack in the league. So he definitely has the running game. He plays great defense, and that sets up well to win in the playoffs. But can he get enough offense going? And what does he do against the Bengals, against the Colts, against the Seahawks? What is he going to do against those top-tier teams? So far, he hasn't really proven it. And so, look, Keox is my buddy. He's been here a long time. Honestly, I've always said this. We would not be here at Grown Folks without him. He was one of those early investors that got us the finances that we needed to get the website going, to get the data leaks, to get everything that we needed once we made the switch from just a Madden league to a real community. He was the one that really helped make that happen. But this isn't about personal feelings. This is about Madden, and I just don't know that he's going to have what it takes. But I am pulling for him because I've always said this league is a better league whenever Chaotix is playing winning football and in the playoffs, and whenever we have new blood in the playoffs. And so I'm pulling for him. Absolutely. Let's talk about a team that I'm not pulling for and a player that I'm not pulling for, and that's the Seattle Seahawks and their buddy Gilbert Nixon. Now, this is how thrown off I am. I am, such in the Gilbert Nixon mode. I pulled up the Denver Broncos website, and it's like, hey, dummy, he doesn't even play for the Broncos anymore. Gilbert Nixon, 99 overall player. He is the modern day Forbes. Forbes was a Saints player, Cardinals player that ended up being in the Hall of Fame. I do think that Gilbert Nixon will be in the Hall of Fame. Drafted by the Broncos last Madden, was his Madden import. He's now 30. He went and was traded this past offseason as the Broncos mixed some things up. Still a little confused by why he did that, but this is a player that for a very, very long time here in the OMFL has been a top-tier player. Back in season 83, 83 or 82. He put up 82 receptions for 1,735 yards and 17 touchdowns. Last season, 77 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And now, as a Seattle Seahawk, listen to these stats. We're in week 7. 26 receptions, 820 yards, a 31.5 average, a log of 94, and 5 touchdowns. He's put up 113 fantasy football points. Thank God I drafted him again this season. He had last week against the Arizona Cardinals a top 5 passing defense in this league. 8 receptions, 199 yards for an average of 24.9 and 2 touchdowns. This guy is an absolute monster. And the question I have for you is, will anyone beat the Seattle Seahawks now that Gilbert Nixon is on his team and is putting up these types of stats?
It's insane. Well,
It's stupid.
26 receptions. He's on pace right now to excuse me, I'm gonna clear my throat a little bit. He's on pace to probably have his lowest reception total. Maybe this Madden, I don't know. It could be close, but the average per play though, 31 yards per play. That's just insane. And I'm one of the ones that didn't actually draft him again this year because I didn't think Mo really focused on. Yeah, I did.
Thank God, because I need to win first place again.
Because I went with Joey Martin, the running back, because Mo has kind of established the running sensation here this Madden, but he's definitely proven that he can throw the ball. And does Gilbert Nixon make the Seahawks unbeatable? I think it really actually does, because now when guys load everything up to shut down Martin, now he's got the guy that has the speed, the strength, the ability to get off the chuck there on the line of scrimmage, and within, and this is what I saw in the Arizona game, within just a little bit, and he was able to throw the cornerback basically aside and get down the field, and easy lob up, and I'm like, man, how where was and I played this guy. He was the Denver Broncos leading receiver, and I've been playing him for the last 2 seasons, and I never seen that from he was the focal point of the Broncos offensive for sure, but just never seen that type of output from him like you're seeing from the Seahawks for his just the overall plays, average yards per play that he's putting up. You do 2 plays and you're already in field goal position, so that alone right there takes a lot of pressure off. And like I said, guys start coming up. Well, then if you start backing up to cover Gilbert, now that opens up the whole offense again for Joey Martin. And just from what I've seen, Mo's defense right now, for whatever reason, has kind of struggled some. But if he gets it all kind of back to where it's the Mo defense we know that he is capable of doing, he's definitely going to throw and make a run at D-Money, I think, this season. And we may actually have someone else sitting along that championship this season.
Listen to some of this stuff. He's 6'6", 233. He's a massive human being. He is just a huge person. Mo has him for $15.14 million this year. That is an absolute steal for a 99 overall receiver who's an absolute game changer. I mean, this kid makes me miss Forbes more and more. I have a really good receiver that I drafted this Madden. Doesn't compare to this guy. This guy is possibly, arguably, even better than Forbes because he's been in the power of the hands of some really powerful owners here. Listen to some of this. 97 speed, 93 acceleration, 97 short, 98 medium, 95 deep, 99 catch, 99 catch in traffic, 96 spectacular catch, 92 jump, 99 release, 98 aware. Holy cow. Like, why would you give this guy up? I don't understand it. You pair this guy up in Denver with, excuse me, the brand new rookie quarterback that he just drafted, whose name is slipping my freaking brain all of a sudden.
Oh, Murray.
Murray, yeah, like Murray can chunk it deep. You send this kid deep. You send him on deep crossers, deep comeback routes. If they cover it up, you take off running with Murray. Like, I just don't understand why you give this kid up. And then you give him up to arguably the top 2 player in this league. It's freaking so disheartening. But Mo has a steal of a player here, a steal of a contract. It just, I'll be glad when this guy's gone and when we've moved over to Madden 19 or Madden 20, I should say, because I don't think he's going to come over. He'll be 31 by then. Who knows? Mo has done shockingly other things, but I do not see him coming over to Madden 20. He's a complete player in every sense of the word, though. All right, that moves us to our last segment here, our mailbag segment. And we do have a couple of questions here. Let me just ask this, because I was gone for a week. I was at a company retreat, but Bill seems to be a little abnormally ornery lately. Have you guys pissed in his Cheerios? Is somebody not hugging him? Like, I'm very confused by what's going on with Bill.
I'm not real sure either. Bill has he's always like, like I said, I always see Bill like this gangster that's just like, if somebody walks in the room like, get out of here, you punk, just. But I don't know. Bill is Bill, and I don't think anybody has. I haven't seen in the chat, but he has been a little bit.
He's
more
been in a
hungry.
mood.
Yeah.
I mean, he snapped off on me about my scheduling my game, and I was like, hey, brother, it's posted, so you can go ahead and leave the commissioner alone. So, but that's Bill. That's why we love him and hate him all at the exact same time. But I will never tell him that I hate him, because he scares me and makes me tinkle a little bit whenever he messages me. But Bill has a couple of questions. That's why I bring him up. And he says, can the board explain again how player imports, that's not a word, imports are nerfed before they're imported in Madden 20? That's a good question, Bill. So I'm always open for new suggestions. I think the scary thing about the new Madden is going to be that the attributes are going to be very, very different. But the way it has been done in the past, and I'm going to lean on Rob since he's here now, and Maniac has always been a very large portion of me figuring this out. And so, Maniac, I want to hear your thoughts. But in the past, what we've done is taken the top 10 at every position. So top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 running backs, fullbacks, so on and so forth for every position in Madden by overall. We take an average of every stat for that position. So average speed, average throwing power, kind of the average of all of those things. Now, as I'm saying this, I know that means there probably needs to be some slight tweaks to that, such as speed for quarterback. So what we would probably do is take, the top 10 speed quarterbacks, like this, the average of their speed, the average of their acceleration. That would probably be the one stat that we slightly did differently. But for the rest of the stats, the throwing power, the short, the medium, the deep, all of the throwing in the pocket, all of those stats, we get the average of every stat. And then that is the cap for imports. And so if your import is over that number, let's say, for instance, the average of the top 10 quarterbacks is 95 throwing power, and your quarterback that you're bringing over as an import is 98, his stat is going to be nerfed to 95. So that's how we've come up with it in the past. We get all of those average stats for every position, and then when we make the player, we nerf that down to whatever that average is, because we don't want to import, 32 99 overall players who have 99 everything across the board, such as the player that we just went through I didn't mean to do that. Just a few seconds ago with Gilbert Nixon. We don't want to import 32 Gilbert Nixons into the league. So we do nerf it. But what are your thoughts on nerfing and kind of how we've done it in the past and some of the tweaks that we can do as we move forward into Madden 20?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on it, and I think you explained it really well. With Madden 20, with what's been said, a lot of the ratings and stuff are going to be actually down further than what they were in Madden 19 when it was first come out, and I think it's basically that gap that you see with the superstar players versus young, upcoming, talented players, and then those that are not so talented but are actually in the league. And so, guys, I think I obviously hadn't got the game yet. I hadn't seen any of the stats or any of the ratings and stuff, but it's probably going to be something that we'll see that it may actually even be lower than last year. You're talking about the 95 throw power, from a 98 to 95. We may actually even see that on how many players in Madden 20 actually have that. With the ratings guy for Madden coming out on Twitter saying that I think I'm trying to think the percentage that he said was actually down, but it was it
was a large percentage. You're right.
Yeah, it was a large percentage where the ratings were going to be a lot significantly lower this next Madden than they were this previous Madden. So look for those stats, to be lower than what we were saying, because we obviously don't want to just add a bunch of, like Nate said, a bunch of superstar guys that are 99 or with the system that's in place for all your attributes to be in the game increased, and that'll probably be looked at as well. We obviously look at that each season, but like the quarterback, this Madden, before, throw power was impossible basically to increase, but now with what the system is set up, you could actually draft a really good quarterback with an 88 throw power, and then focus training and put that training in on throw power, and you could actually see the quarterback gain 2 and 3 throw power points within that time of training. So again, that's one of those things that we're going to have to look at and test before we ever get into the season, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything comes out with this new Madden, and I'm kind of looking forward to checking out that stream today over EA Play.
Yeah, I may even do a live feedback. I don't know how Pootie T's schedule looks like, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's I also don't know who murdered our chat. Our OMFL guys just disappeared. There's it was super busy in the chat. Then no OMFL guys are talking, and now it's completely dead. All right. Bill also asked, will the board select a player of similar age, position to be edited as the import? That's a good question, Bill. I would say in the past that has not been the focus. This is what always happens, right? People are busy, and everyone. I don't ever say this to make people feel bad, because everyone here does as much as they can, as often as they can, and it's no one's responsibility to put in the most work than me. That's my responsibility. And so, but the fact is that I do put in the most work, and I unlike a lot of these other leagues, we don't have a lot of guys who golly, I don't know why I'm coughing this morning. I'm sorry. I don't have a lot of guys in this league who have a ton of time to do a lot of things. And so what happens is we end up scrambling, and they just pick the lowest overall player to start editing, and they edit the age and everything. But I think you're right. I think what we will try to do to the best of our ability is go in and find players of similar age who are the lowest overall, maybe even similar position, and try to edit that way. It's not always black and white that way, but it's a good suggestion, and it's definitely something that we'll keep in mind as we move into Madden 20. What are your kind of thoughts on imports? And correct me, I think you might have helped a little bit as we made imports last year.
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember who was actually.
I think it was Dwayne that had taken the lead. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah, it was either Dwayne or it might have been Dawson, but I did see that there were several guys and I think that was kind of one of the things that we had some issues with when we first started Madden. We had some guys really getting a lot of XP points because the type of player that we selected for the import player was different. I think the years of experience also played into the part with XP. I think with it being like some guys were entered in as younger guys, some guys were entered in as older, more experienced guys, and those guys weren't getting the XP points that the other guys were, and so
it was that first season that got really hairy too.
Yeah,
we had some weird stuff like 5 rolls.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I think that was kind of playing a part of that. Personally, I would like to see us maybe actually just create the players from scratch, because then you have a flat baseline. Because if you've ever looked at Daddy's League's stats, there's like hidden stats, which I actually questioned the guy with Madden that does the Madden ratings on Twitter, and he said, well, some of those stats don't really play effect. Like the quarterback actually has an overall accuracy stat on Daddy Leagues, and I think in some instances that plays a part. And there's other stats like that with other player positions that are kind of there. The game recognizes it. Daddy Leagues recognizes it, but it was said that it really didn't affect the game. But we all know how that sometimes plays a part, and I think it's maybe some of the things, if we could create the player from scratch basically and then enter them in. I know it's probably going to be a little bit more work because you obviously have to build the player, but I would think it would make it an even playing field across the board with those players coming in. But again, that's going to be some time spent to actually get that done. But I'm definitely for sure saying that we really need to try our best to make it very similar to what that player is coming out of this Madden going into the next Madden to make it flow better.
Yeah, and for me, early August, or actually the whole month of August, is extremely busy. This year I won't be quite as busy because I'm traveling one less week, but I usually travel 3 weeks in a row. This year I'm only doing 2 weeks, but I will say that pulls me away, right? And I just have to trust the board, and sometimes they just do the best. So having these conversations early will hopefully help us remember. I'll admit, losing Dawson's going to suck. Some of me hopes that that he comes back in Madden 20, and I have to, boot somebody. I think at the top of that list is going to be Bloop. I think Bloop's going to be the first to go. I think Cooley, I just don't like him. He's just kind of a jerk. No, I'm joking on both of those things. Don't want those guys to take me serious. I was going to let that go, but those guys.
Bloop's heart just sank to his ankle.
No, I don't want to boot anyone. But I will say, and we've talked about this on past Press Pass Lives, that not everybody's getting an invite back, and you're going to have to sleep in the bed that you made this Madden. And if you've had, nothing but FPR issues that have not gotten better, and the same complaints are there all of Madden, then don't be surprised if you're offered an OMFL 2 slot or not a slot at all, because I do see that happening. But hopefully Dawson comes back, because he was so dedicated to that kind of stuff. He just jumped in and would make those kinds of players. Pepper had another really quick question. 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up, because my family's up, and I'm sure your family's back home. So we went long today, but it was good to have Brian on. Pepper says, would you ever consider doing a draft lottery for team selection? It seems to create some excitement that other leagues, prior to the game releasing, guys don't always pick who you think they would. I would say this, and I want to get your thoughts first, and then I'll give my thoughts. I will say my disclaimer is that if you would have asked me 6 seasons ago, 2 years ago, 2 human years ago, would you ever do a pause draft? I hated that idea. I was like, hell no, I'd never do it. It's too scary. What if something goes wrong? It would just be terrible. And now the pause draft is one of our trademarks. It's one of the things that I actually look forward to the most. And it does build a lot of excitement for the real draft. And it hasn't really taken that much away from the real draft. And it has allowed more people to participate. So I will say that has taught me a lesson, that I'm never closed-minded to any ideas. But what do you think about a snake reverse draft, team draft type of situation as we moved into Madden 20?
That is kind of intriguing in a way. I mean, you've got some guys that have been entrenched, with the Packers. He hasn't moved from the Packers. And obviously they're his favorite team and stuff, but there's also other guys in the league that have that team as their favorite. And I have actually been a part of other leagues that did have a team draft. And it does bring a kind of like a new intrigue each season. It's kind of like the highlight going into that Madden, gets everybody kind of pumped up. But I mean, I don't think there's anything exactly wrong with what we do here as well. But I do see the benefits from creating excitement and kind of switching things around. It also kind of switches divisions and stuff around. You get different matchups. Some you might actually have a Cincy and a Mo in the same division with that, the way that plays out. But then again, also with the way we do it here, it does create some type of rivalry. Each Madden, going through. You got D Wayne and you were kind of rivals with the Falcons and the Saints for 2 Maddens, but those type of things probably would still be created, but it wouldn't carry over with like it would with that type of draft.
Yeah, and that's always kind of my counter argument, is that I think there are pros and cons to both, right? And being as somebody who, I'm a Saints fan, so that's why I have my Saints. I still firmly believe that you get the most activity, the most content, the most buy-in, the most passion, the most excitement when you own the team that you actually like and that you follow in real life. I think that there is a trade-off, that when you don't have that team, that buy-in isn't there as much. And so I've experienced it, because as a Saints fan, there are other Saints fans here. 2 Maddens ago, Chaotic and I worked out this thing where one Madden I'll have the Saints, and the next Madden I'll leave and he'll have the Saints, and we'll go back and forth. Now, in Madden 19, he decided not to do that, and I think he's already decided Madden 20 he doesn't want to do that, so it hasn't actually happened the last couple of seasons. But being as somebody who didn't have my Saints, I always was... Now, look, I created content because this is my community, and it's my responsibility to create content and that kind of thing, but there was a little bit less excitement there. But then again, I did put a player in the Hall of Fame with not my favorite team. And so, I kind of see the pros and cons of both. And maybe this goes up for a vote, right? Maybe when we get towards the end of the season, there's going to be so much going on. Imports, Hall of Fame, owner Hall of Fame. There's going to be this we can talk about. There's going to be the coach of what is it? Help me with that, because it's your thing. It's awesome. The top 20 coaches. What is it?
top 20 coaches of Madden,
It,
this particular Madden.
which is so freaking awesome. It was like really popular in the Madden community, and actually was the article that got a lot of attention on us. And so, like, there's going to be so many things that keep people engaged. That's why I'm glad this is our last season. Give people a break, and there'll be other things to keep people engaged. So it's an exciting time. I'm open to it, Pepper. I think it's a good suggestion, and I will definitely put it out in the league. I will say this though. In order for me to do it, it can't be like a 52 to 48 type of vote. It would have to be overwhelming. So it would have to be over 75% of the league would have to vote for it, or I wouldn't be able to do it, because a 50-50 means half are for it, half are against it, and you know what I mean? Like, it would need to be like an overwhelming, yes, let's do this, let's snake draft it. I mean, not snake draft, reverse draft it, where, by record. And that's the other thing. I think it would have to go by record, like by overall Madden record. So look at people's overall record for all of Madden 19, and then reverse it from there by percentage.
So basically, you would have, like, Outlaw would probably be picking number one overall.
Right. Not not Bill, who does. I'm not saying that. I'm just picking his name because I know he wouldn't do this. But Bill would tank and win 3 games this season, so he gets the number 1 pick, right? Like, I wouldn't want to build in an incentive for tanking, which we've already all lived through. But maybe it's like overall Madden record for Madden 19, by winning percentage, reverse engineered. So even players like Cooley and Bloop and other players and Rob, who joined us midway or just the last season or two, it's by percentage. It's not by just the record.
Right.
So I'm open to it. I'll put a vote up as we get towards the end of the season, and we'll see what the league thinks. But this is also a great time for you guys to leave your comments right here in the YouTube page. Like, leave your comments about what you think, what you want to see, what your thoughts are on that. I think it would be really, really good to hear from you. All right, let's get to our last question, then we'll wrap it up. And it comes from Smash, and he says, has the board considered simming a season or two to get more seasons in? It would help Priest to finally get rid of quarterback Rodgers. So a little shot across the bow there. I don't think he'll ever get rid of Rodgers. He'll probably make him the next coach. I think Rodgers is a staple of Priest and will always be here. I think that's a really interesting question. I'd love to get your ideas. My thoughts are no, because the catch-22 with that is you do hurt teams that are maybe older. But one of the teams that comes to mind is like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Seattle Seahawks, right? Like teams that are really good but win now. And if you sim 2 or 3 seasons, you're taking away their ability to win championships, to win games with the team that they have now. I just think that there are other leagues out there. That's why we have many different options. I know that TFL, maybe one of our leagues here, maybe it's Bloop's league. They play a season, sim a season, play a season, sim a season, and it's great. Like, I totally support that idea, but I think that's why we have other league options here. You can play offline if you want to do that kind of stuff. Personally, I hesitate because I just think it hurts the teams who are win now mode and who maybe are going to have to rebuild in 2 or 3 or 4 seasons. I think about me, right? I'm going to have the Saints next year. I mean, that team has got some young players, but like I have a 45-year-old quarterback, and so if you sim 2 seasons, like I'm going to have to draft a quarterback. B, I'm not. And I'm not going to have the ability to play with a rookie to build him up. I'm going to kind of be left to whatever the sim season does. And I just think it really hurts teams that maybe are older. And yes, you do get more seasons in, but in my opinion, the trade-off isn't there. But what are your thoughts about sim and seasons?
Yeah, I mean, I see the intrigue that it would bring. And I'm actually going to go over there and play with the TFL guys. They're kind of a little bit more laid back, so that's going to be my second league here in the OMFL, going into Madden 20 that I'll play for a few months when I do have the time. But that's one of the things that they have done, and I've kind of looked at that, and it is intriguing. But on the other hand, I do see the benefits of the way we do it. Is because, like, you get guys that and like this Madden where you have guys like Rodgers and Brady, those type of quarterbacks, if you do that, they're going to be gone right away. And like you said, you're kind of left to the wheel of Madden after that, because you're not really having control over a lot of stuff. And uh, you know, again, like I said, I see the positives from it. I also see the negatives, and I'm like you. There is two different leagues,
Yep.
so you can't experience that on both sides. Um, I just think, like you said, with Priest and A Rod, I don't think he would ever get rid of the guy. And and if Madden does ever have an injury where it's a career ending, and I see Priest having this where it takes the first couple of snaps in the season, and A Rod goes down and it's career ending and it's done. You may actually see Priest snap. I don't know.
Nope, I agree with you. My wife is now standing in front of me. They're about to go to a movie. Cincyberg, you're not losing points. You submitted these questions way too late, and so they weren't on here. So I refreshed, and I see your question. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take the first one because it's time sensitive. I'm going to save the second one. So we'll do your second one on the next show because we are an hour and 42 minutes deep on this show. This is one of the
Holy cow.
longest shows that we've ever done, and that's because we spent a lot of time with Brian, and it was definitely worth it. I apologize. You can hear microwaves and all kinds of stuff in the background. This is life. I don't have a studio. I'm doing the best that I can here, and we went almost 2 hours long. So, look, if I got to listen to Houday meow in the back, then y'all can put up with a microwave for a few seconds. So let's take his first question. He says, AFC West has 3 teams, 5-1. Jesus, I know that's loud. They all, whoa, let me get it to where I can read it. Are they all in to win it at this point? Who's your favorite, and do they all 3 make the postseason? My initial answer is to make the postseason. I think that the Browns' schedule sets up well for a middle season run that adds up, 10, 11 wins. I think he's going to stumble at the end, but I think he's going to have just enough to get in. I think the Bengals are definitely a shoe-in, especially with the struggles of the Colts and other teams that we've seen over there.
Did he say the North, or did he say the West?
Oh, the West. That's right. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Like I'm all turned around here. We're talking about the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. Good question. I got turned around. I thought we were talking about his division. Sorry. I would say, man, that's a tough question. I personally think that 2 get in because I go back to what I was saying about his own division. I do think that the Browns get in because of their schedule. Now, which of the Raiders and the Broncos get in and get out? That's a really good question that I'm not 100% sure on. I would say if I had to guess, I'm going to have to go with the Broncos. I just think they have more playmakers on offense. Their offense is playing really well, and they'll play just enough defense. I don't like either one of those teams for a long run because of the defense. I think they're the Steelers of last couple of seasons, in my opinion. They rely really well on the quarterback play and offense, and they're not known for defense. And in the playoffs, when you play the Chiefs, when you play the Colts, or you play those really good teams, you're going to have to play really, really great defense. So I think 2 get in, and if I had to pick 2, I'm going to go with the Broncos and the Chiefs. Chiefs are a shoe-in. They're in. You play great defense. Your team's rolling. You're always in the playoffs. I think there's very few seasons you've ever missed the playoffs. But you're in that division. What are your feelings?
Well, the last game I just played against the Broncos, I laid a kind of an offensive egg because I only put 6 points on the board after having 5 straight games with, I believe, 28 points or more per game. So that was a kind of a tough pill to swallow. And the Broncos are really kind of flying high right now, or with that Kyler Murray connection going on there with the quarterback, and he didn't really run a whole lot with him, and and he was just, well, he didn't have to because his wide receivers were open on pretty much every route, but that West it's crazy right now, and I think we got 3 teams that are 5-1: Raiders, Broncos, myself. I do think I can get in, but it's really going to be.
Oh, stop it. I do think I can get in. Shut up.
But it's really going to kind of depend upon what happens in the next couple weeks, because I have D Wayne, which that's he's my thing is he's probably going to take his frustration out on me and probably beat me like
Oh,
50.
you can guarantee there's going to be some frustration taken out.
So I'm going to be the scapegoat for everybody. Thanks a lot, guys. And then the next week I have the Raiders, and if something happens and I do lose these next two games, that'll be a 3-game skid. Then it's going to be an uphill battle, because my schedule later on, I have the Bengals again. I have the Jets. Um, I don't even remember who all I have. Uh, I think I have the Rams and Bill this season. I think I also have the 49ers. So there's going to be some really really tough games coming out, and so it's going to kind of depend on what happens. If I can come out of this next two game uh, before my bye with at least a 1-1 victory to loss ratio, maybe. But if I go out of this 0-2, it's going to be a real uphill battle for the Chiefs.
I can't with you. I'm not even listening to any of this crap. Let's go ahead and do our closing rants. You got 2 minutes. Give me your closing thoughts on the show and your closing rant.
My rant, just guys with the FPR. It seems like the 3 Maddens have been here. It always seems like the last season seems to be the worst with the FPR. I know guys get a little anxious and start really pressing, trying to get something going and stuff, and just be mindful of what all types of routes you're calling or defense you're calling, loading the box. We want to all follow FPR as close as we can, and everybody struggles at something, and I don't care who you are. But just keep your mind open. Always, with feedback, and do your best to at least adhere to the feedback that's given to you from the board, and just try to straighten those things up, so that way we can finish up this Madden strong FPR wise, and look to head into Madden 20 on a.
Yeah, keep your mind open and your heart will always find love, or your butt's going to find a boot in it, because I'm kind of sick of the FPR. It's been bad this season. I don't understand. It's the last season, right? I get it. And I guess here's my biggest complaint about FPR. I don't expect people to play perfectly. But those of you who are really loud about FPR, you make my life miserable. Like, I don't read the forums. Like, I don't put forth the work. Like, I'm sitting around just letting people cheese to death. It's just not what I do. There's a system in place. I play that system out, and I do the best that I can, right? And if you hate it that much, then maybe you should step up to the plate and come help us out a little bit more than you do, instead of just complaining all the time. I will say, though, it's not been good. It's been a rough year for FPR. I'm not 100% sure why. I do tend to think like you do, that it's the last season and guys tend to let up on stuff. It's the same stuff as always, right? Post routes. Crossers. Yeah, I mean, I always have this argument with myself. We should just do a whole show, and we probably will one day. We'll just take a break and the actual show itself, do our games of the week, and then the actual show is just FPR talk. Because here's my argument: it's well, don't run post routes, don't run crossers. What would you like them to run? Would you like them to run 2-yard comeback routes? Because there's only so many. There's slants, there's go routes, there's post routes, there's crossers, and there's drags. There's just not a whole. Nobody's throwing an out route. This game, out routes are broken. So go ahead and throw that one out of the window. There's only so many routes. It goes back to this point, and that is leaning on things whenever you shouldn't lean on them. And that's okay. I haven't ran any post routes this game, but in the last 2 minutes of a 3-point game, I ran 4 post routes. Well, okay, you're a jerk, and that's wrong. That's against FPR, right? if you run 4 post routes, 1 a quarter, that's totally cool. And yeah, if one of them comes on third down, so be it. Who cares? It's like they can't avoid every route on every down that you don't like. There has to be some ownership about the calls that you play. I will say that, look, Smash, you were on the show. I don't know if you still are, but last night he's moving his safeties around. Why? Because he was calling cover 1 and cover 3 a freaking ton. Now, it didn't feel a ton to a point where I had to say something, and I gave him all 5s because I didn't feel like he was breaking FPR, but what I want is owners to start picking up on that stuff of oh, I'm actually doing this a lot. Maybe I should avoid that, right? Oh, I'm sending, the thing that drives me insane is playing these couple teams. Every second down, you're getting the all-out, double or triple linebacker blitz, and every second down you can guarantee it's and it just drives me insane. It's I've seen that play now 12 times this game. Freaking find another play, find another blitz, do something else. That's the point that drives you nuts, because we're now 6 seasons deep, and when you've seen the same play all game for 6 seasons, you want to murder somebody. And so I want everyone to stay out of jail, and the way we do that is by mixing it up. And do know that I'm going to follow our system. Put you in stage 1, stage 2. No one has gotten to stage 3 yet, but just know that the Piper's coming, and he's going to expect to get paid, and that is going to be in the invites for Madden 20. And I will say that I think that our sportsmanship award that we have done has helped. I do see some of our big-time complainers complain a little bit less and get better ratings, and it just has helped. But just know that those of you who struggle with FPR, I'm here to work it out with you. I'm not here to debate with you. I'm not here to have, these super long back and forth conversations. I just don't have that kind of time. None of you guys pay me to do this full time. And so, I'm not going to do that with you. But if you want to point out plays and get my thoughts, I'll tell you my thoughts, and then you can do with that as you please. I got a message last night from an owner, is my time done here? Everybody complains about my FPR. I don't know what kind of question that is. That's not on me. That's on you. FPR has never changed. It's been here for 3 years now. It's the same. It's been minor tweaks. And so it's your job to figure out FPR. And I'm more than welcome to talk it through with you and help you, but it's your job to kind of figure out. All right, let's pay some bills here, so to speak. I wish that we actually got money from all these people, but we don't. GrownFolksOC.com. That's where you can find us, and go check out our partners. I'm not going to visit all their websites, but if you come to partners, you'll see all of our partners there. Soden at Soden Bowl, man, such a great guy. He has built his new Soden Bowl network, where other leagues are now a part of a tournament and going to be a part of a website where they can produce content. It's really great. Go check them out. Soden's a really nice guy and a super hard worker and just doing some great things for the community. DaddyLeagues.com. If you have a Madden League and you don't have a Daddy Leagues page, then shame on you. That's not for the TPC. He built his own. But go check out Daddy Leagues. Our good buddy over at League Crawler, whose website was down lately. So hopefully he'll be able to get that fixed. But, man, they are awesome over at League Crawler. One of the guys that I truly, truly enjoy talking to. And then a couple of our WWE 2K friends, True One Sports, Austin, DTA, and OCW. Some great guys if you're into that kind of thing. And then finally, our buddy over at Overtime Heroics. This is a sports forum and website. If you're looking for sports podcasts, if you're looking for a sports forum, if you're looking for sports news, go and help support them. We're going to get him on a podcast. He was umpiring all day today, so he couldn't do it this morning, but we will find one that he can be on. But make sure that you go check them out. And then, of course, our stuff. You can find all of our different leagues here. We have 7 different Madden leagues, our WWE league, our golf league, our FIFA team, our shooters, H1Z1, which is kind of going away because now I need to change that over. Now that's going to be PUBG, Red Dead, Call of Duty. We play a little bit of Apex, I know is played, so play a little bit of everything. All of the latest content can be found here on our website, grownfolksoc.com. And then finally, you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitch. I'd love for you to help us out. We're at 280 subscribers on YouTube. Love to get that up over 300. Help us. Leave comments. Do likes. Do retweets. All that fun stuff. But we'd be honored if you enjoy our podcast and enjoy the content that we create, that you go give us some subscribes and some follows and some retweets and all that fun stuff. Thank you again to Brian for making time to be here, and all of Brian's friends who are here on the podcast today, man. Thank you all so very much. D-Wayne, we missed you. Get over your loss. Everybody loses sometimes. Don't puke your guts out over it. It's not worth getting that upset about. And Houday, shut your mouth back there when we're on a podcast with Maniac. We're trying to have a show here. Maniac, thank you so much, man. All of you have a really great and blessed week. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.